What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Moving on to the next question on the test. So a rectangle has an area of A is equal to n cubed plus n squared minus 5n minus 5. We have to find an expression for the length, width, and perimeter of the rectangle. Okay, so let's draw this rectangle here. We're told the area of this rectangle is that expression n cubed plus n squared minus 5n minus 5. And we have to find an expression for the length and the width. And then also the perimeter. But once we have the length and the width, the perimeter is going to be easy because we know the perimeter of a rectangle is just what? 2L plus 2W. 2 of these L's added together plus 2 of these W's added together. So really we just got to find the width and the length. Now we know area is equal to what? Length times width. So we're given the area as n cubed plus n squared minus 5n minus 5. So if we can take this area and factor it into two factors, then we can represent this factor as the length and then this factor as the width, right? Because area is equal to length times width. That's the formula for the area of a rectangle. So notice to factor this, we can factor it by grouping. So we can factor an n squared out of the first two, we'll be left with n plus 1. We could take out a minus 5 from these two, be left with an n plus 1. Then we could take out an n plus 1, and we'd be left with n squared minus 5, like that. So notice now that we have two factors that are multiplying by each other, so we can represent the length and the width as either of these two. So let's represent this one as the length, so that would be n squared minus 5, and then the width would be n plus 1. I just feel like the length is longer, and n squared minus 5 we can assume is longer than n plus 1. Not necessarily, n plus 1 might be longer, but let's just assume so. Now, another point I want to make, notice you can't factor this any further. This is a difference of squares, but then the factors would be decimals. But let's say you had n squared minus 4 here. Then technically what you can do is you could factor that into n minus 1, or n minus 2 rather. What am I saying? N minus 2 and then n plus 2. But because we're dealing with two factors only, length times width, you want to keep it at these two brackets here, and then just represent the length and the width as one of the two brackets. So that's just a potential case that can come up. I actually thought of it when I was doing this question myself, so thought I would mention it. So anyway, factored it. So now we got the length, which is n squared minus 5, and then we got the width, n plus 1. So we got an expression for the width, we got an expression for the length. Now we can get an expression for the perimeter. The perimeter is equal to 2 times the length of n squared minus 5 plus 2 times the expression for the width, which is n plus 1. So distributing the 2 inside the brackets, we'll have 2n squared minus 10 plus 2n plus 2. Notice these two are like terms here. 2n squared plus 2n. Negative 10 plus 2 gives us negative 8. So that there is the expression for the perimeter. So length, width, perimeter.